consider subscribing to our newsletter. It's how we get a lot of information out to you. It's called Infinity. We do that usually weekly. Has some really cool, interesting facts. Sometimes we put Yoko's selfies on there too.
Sometimes that will probably go up there later.
And we've also been really trying, especially since last year, to make sure we have nice, fresh, and interesting content on Twitter and Facebook. So definitely follow us on those two if you haven't already. So, the first game that we'd like to reintroduce to you today would be Ultra Despair Girls, Danganronpa, another episode. For those of you who don't know, at the show, Kodaka-san, who is the writer and director of the series, he's here as a guest of honor.
Yep.
And he will be giving a panel, actually. He will be giving a panel
tomorrow
at
noon.
At
she says noon.
12:15 in live programming 3, so right across the hall.
Yeah. And at that panel, he's going to talk about how he comes up with his stories, his characters, and so for those of you who are fans of the series, definitely check that out. I think it'll be a really good time. And we'd like to show you a clip.
Nice. Doesn't love an emulating game.
So that is Danganronpa, another episode. We actually have that at our booth on the floor, completely in English, so you can have a chance to try that out. Play the English build, check out the English voices, and you can also pre-order it at our booth as well. This is the limited edition, and
We have an AX exclusive lanyard that comes along with it if you order it at AX.
so please hop on down to our booth, 911. Next up is Disgaea 5, coming this October 6th. Let's roll the clip.
Never forget. Vengeance is the only thing that keeps me going.
Let's see. Suffice it to say, I'm I'm doing it for revenge, I think. Can revenge be the only reason for someone to live? I'm not so sure about that.
But to get revenge for all his underlings that Void Dart killed! But...
I'll get my revenge someday. That I swear.
All right, leave it to me. Let's pull it together and go get some revenge.
October 6th. We also have a pre-order station going for that down at our booth as well, in addition to the English game playable as well. If you pre-order here at AX, I know it's probably hard for most of you to see, but we made special lanyards.
You can have chibis.
Yeah, that have the chibi characters from the game. Some people, it looks like, already have one. You pre-ordered. And if you pre-order, you can get one of these really cool lanyards, so please go check that out.
Sweet dude!
My favorite.
I'll let Yoko maybe introduce Rodea. Maybe not. So next up we have Rodea the Sky Soldier, coming out October the 13th in North America. Rodea was actually the brainchild of Yuji Naka, who made the Sonic series and Nights into Dreams. It definitely has his very unique blend of speed and 3D action and space and things like that. We've got that down in our booth to play, and this game is really, really cool, so we hope you like it. Check out the clip.
It comes as a 3DS and a Wii U.
I got a warproof! Alright! Hey, can you hear my voice? Whoa! He stood up!
Okay, I'll get going now.
Wait, Rodea. Make sure you come back, okay?
Is that an order?
It's a promise. Promise me you'll come back, safe and sound.
So, that was Rodea the Sky Soldier this October. You can play that at our booth as well as pre-order it. The pre-order bonus for this, exclusive to AX, is a really cool print of key art from the game that we'll give you when you pre-order it. So, already talked about that one, but just to reiterate, please follow us on social media and such. Get on our newsletter. Actually, we don't have any new titles to announce tonight. We have several things in the pipeline, but it was just a little bit too early to announce them here tonight, so we're gonna hold back on those. But, oh, I know. But we do have a lot of really cool stuff coming out, which we'll let you know about probably a little bit later into the year. But the good news is that since we don't really have anything else to announce, we can take a lot of your questions. And hopefully we can have a nice little conversation now. Tonight there's me, Alan, at NIS. Next to me is...
Yoko?
What do you do, Yoko?
I don't know. That's always a hard question. When people ask me, what do you do? I'm just like, well, I'm in localization. I'm the localization director at NISA.
You also wear many hats, like a pretty hat.
And then last but not least, this
Hi,
charming gentleman over here is...
I'm Alex. I'm an editor, or rather new editor at NISA. And the last title that I edited was Danganronpa, another episode. So I was the main editor on that project.
Yeah, so that's us. And so we'd like to open the floor now to your questions. We would ask that, as usual, if we didn't announce anything today or we didn't speak about anything, that means that we can't. So if you have an idea, you're like, hey, I know you guys are going to do this, even though you're 99% sure, we can't say yes or no. So I don't recommend asking questions like that because I don't like to have to say, oh, you can't talk about that right now. But anything else?
Because I might accidentally spill the name.
Yeah. So I think we have a cordless mic here.
So, question, is it wrong to ask if you could tell us a bit, like, who's voicing, like, some of the characters, like, if someone's curious, like, who's voicing Kelia for Sky 5?
You know, you can ask me. I don't remember the name, honestly. But all that aside, we have a contract. I'm sure some of you have heard differences between union and non-union, so we usually hire actors through non-union contract. So unless we get an approval from the actors, we can't really disclose all that information. So right now, I can't answer that question because I don't remember, and also the other reason.
Who do you think it is?
You know, the story behind it, we had to actually recast his character after the first day. So I can think of two names who were on it, and I don't know which one ended up being whoever it was.
Actually, if you could maybe form a line in the middle, and then pass it back to the person behind you when you're through, those of you who have questions, that might make it go a little bit more smoothly.
Okay, I'm actually a vendor. I actually sell your guys' actually your anime, but also I sell like merchandise relating to your games. One of the popular sellers has been obviously Danganronpa, and a lot of people have been buying the merchandise from us. Anyways, my question is, can we expect to see more Danganronpa merchandise in the works?
Yeah, excellent question. We actually have one new T-shirt design that Alex is wearing that's exclusive at AX.
You want to stand up and model it?
Yeah.
Model it for us, Alex.
Which modeling pose do you guys want? Like looking off, like
Do a JoJo pose.
We've got this. We've got the same
Maybe
design,
the
but it's a black
black
one. We've got a really cool Monokuma design, and we also have some other stuff that will be going onto our online store soon after AX. So be on the lookout for that. Definitely more merch coming.
Thank you.
Hi. So for Disgaea 4, there was a ton of really cool mechanical improvements you made to the game, and from the preview you guys showed, I didn't see really any like cool hooky mechanics like you guys had in Disgaea 4. Are you guys at liberty to talk about any of the cool new mechanics of Disgaea 5 at this time?
The new, well, the biggest thing we're pushing is the new, the battle feature called Revenge. Is that the more you damage you get, you unlock this revenge mode and you start attacking. But the unique thing is that you have this ability and also the enemies too, so it kind of makes the battle even more challenging than it is. But at the same time, for Disgaea 5, we collected all the fan favorite features from 1, 2, 3, 4 and compiled that into one. So It's but at the same time we kind of eliminated like more of a complicated system that may be too difficult for newcomers to approach. So the title itself is appealing to those people who are familiar with Disguise series because it has all those fan favorite features, and also it's simple enough for the new people to approach. You might have noticed like the characters in Disguise 5, there's no cameo appearance anymore. You might see them, but it's all brand new characters basically. So there's like the older element to it, and then the brand new element to Disguise 5.
Awesome, thank you.
You're welcome.
Hello, mind if I quickly ask 2 quick questions? One, that last game you showed, can you pre-order it for the Wii U?
Yes, you can. Actually, thank you. If you pre-order for the Wii U, it also comes with the Wii version of the game. The Wii version of the game was the one originally created by Yuji Naka that you used the Wii mod for to make Rodeo move. And yeah, it's pretty cool. It's probably going to be the last Wii game to come out ever, maybe. It's going to be
Maximum 4 players. There's a mini game where you race each other to get to the finish line. It's really, the game system itself is like completely different than Wii U or 3DS.
And second, sorry, I forgot what your name is. Sorry. Yoko. Yoko? Okay. Just want to ask, how does that printing hat feel? Because I'm thinking of buying one for your booth.
What? Sorry, what was it?
How does the printing hat
feel?
feel?
It's warm, and it feels like it's literally like part of my head.
So like best for
However you want to take that.
So best for cold days or something like that?
It's secure. I could probably wear this and go on a motorcycle and then won't fly away.
One size fits most?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Hi. This is for Yoko. I understand that localization is a very difficult process. I've always been curious. When it comes to localizing a game or any kind of project, are there certain things that you have to change dramatically or just flat out leave out because it just didn't translate well, or did you ever have any of those kinds of experiences?
Yeah, all the time. And thank you for recognizing that the localization is difficult. Because it is. Yeah, I mean, do you want to answer that one? Or?
Well, the very first editing project I did was Criminal Girls. Maybe you guys have heard of that one. That was fun. There are a lot of, when localizing a game, there's a lot of factors that have to be considered. One of the factors would just be the differences between languages, of course, but another factor that a lot of people, I think, maybe overlook is the differences in culture. Certain things mean different things in certain cultures. Certain cultures have their own symbology that you can't really copy into any other culture, or it doesn't make sense, or it means something completely different in our culture. And things that you have to change of that nature vary by the title.
Yeah, it really depends on the title and the project that we're working on. A lot of times with the games, we do have a lot more freedom to kind of go crazy with it and make it, characterize the characters to fit the Western the culture. But when we're working on anime, there's a lot more that goes into than just culturizing or localizing, because there's a technical aspect of if we're doing an English dub, then we have to make sure that the sentences have the same syllable or number of syllable as the flaps of the mouth. And it's just, I mean, it gets crazy. So, yeah, so I don't know if that was a good answer for you, but it just depends, yeah.
It is. One more question. As far as your guys' projects are concerned, are the localizations, are they pretty accurate to the original Japanese dialogue, or were there just some projects where you just had to pretty much start from scratch?
We never, ever changed the meaning behind what the original creators intended to have in the story. So basically the process of it is that our translators will translate it as accurately as possible to the original. and then the editors will look it over, of course, go over like the proofreading part, like the grammatical errors, and then if there are anything that doesn't translate well, then we may rephrase it in different orders, but never ever really changing the context of anything.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello. You guys are really famous for your collector's editions. You put a lot of work into that. Can you expound upon the process that goes in behind that? Because I gotta assume it's very complicated.
Definitely, thank you. That's a really good question. First of all, thanks for recognizing our collector's edition. One thing I usually say at panels like this is that pretty much everybody who works at our company is a fan of the content that we do and a fan of games and anime culture in general. So when we get a new title, and or even one from our head office, we sit down pretty much as an entire group, including people from localization, people from the motion graphics department, or people from other departments, and we think, first we look at what assets we received. Sometimes we get a lot in terms of visuals, sketches, things of that nature. Sometimes we also have access to soundtracks and things like that, and those are kind of a no-brainer in a way that, wow, we can use these to make a really cool soundtrack and then a really cool art book. And the second thing we always try to look at is looking at the title, what it's about, what the characters are, what kinds of fans the game has. We then try to create one extra item that really reflects what's in that title. So some titles that ends up being one, 2 or 3 more items. Sometimes it ends up being, just one really big item. But that's kind of the general process we go through. To use a really specific example, you're wearing a vert shirt from Neptunia Victory.
Yes.
For Neptunia PP, it's an idol simulation game, so there's music and dancing. And so we thought the coolest thing for that would be to have earbuds, so we have earbuds inside the collector's edition. So that's kind of in a nutshell how we do that.
And just one last thing. Thank you for Criminal Girls.
Well done.
I guess to add on to the collector's edition things, within the meeting, we also kind of have fun with the meeting. We have this thing that we call a McDonald's idea, which is voted like, it's like the unofficial idea, and it's probably the worst ideas that come from that meeting. It's just part of the process of like, oh, to make something better, we have to think of what the worst thing would be as well. So.
Just like when we did the pretty action game, and we had the Black Kong, if anybody remembers, it turned out to be the best item ever.
That is the best.
Oh.
So in Japan, we released a Prinny browser game that was kind of like hatching little Prinnies, and I noticed on the Disgaea 5 website you translated and localized Prinny Research Squad. And I was actually wondering what was your decision behind that, because it's a bit niche. You have to go in and go to the special section and actually find it and know how to play it.
It was really purely for our fans, for those people that love the series and do check out our website. To actually check out our website, they can find that game and hopefully to drive more traffic.
For things like that, obviously because it's our head office, where we have access to the source code, and everything that they do, we have access to as well. And we played around with it internally, and we knew, like you said, it can be a little bit obtuse in terms of mechanics and everything, but it was fun. And this guy, is such an incredible fan base, all of you guys. And so we knew that maybe not every single person who went to the website would play with it, but the people who did really love the series and care about it would go to it and enjoy it. So that's why we did it.
Okay, I'm sorry if this comes off as a loaded question, so brace yourselves. It's like I know NISA has come under some criticism online for censoring or removing content from some games. These are their words, not mine. For the sake of a general public who won't buy the game anyway, and ruining it for the people who no longer want the game because so much is ruined. I know Criminal Girls has been criticized for that, and I don't know if it was Criminal Girls, but I heard talk of another game that content actually introduced a game-breaking bug that ruined people's games because that content wasn't there. I guess my question is,
do certain hard decisions like that, do they come from the alleged opening the games up to a broader audience, or is it more of a going to a rating system with the ESRB? Is it just certain content has to be changed to avoid an M or an AO or any higher ratings?
Yeah, this is, you don't need to apologize. It's a fantastic question, and all of you as consumers have the right to know. First and foremost, the work that goes into removing things from something actually is a lot greater than the work of leaving things as it is. It doesn't really benefit us as a company to take anything out of any of our titles on the business side of things. All the decisions that we make of that nature, and generally speaking, it's obviously sexual content. Things of that nature, we look at it really carefully, we look at it internally, and then we do go to various rating boards around the world, speak to them and look at it, and then the decision, if it's like, if it looks like it's going to be a situation where it will receive a rating that's too high to be released in certain territories, then that's how that decision ends up getting made. I don't know if all of you know, but for example, out here in North America, any game that gets an AO isn't allowed to be on consoles. So we're kind of stuck like that. You want to add anything, Yoko? That's the localization.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's either we are able to bring it or not, and we always try to find a way to bring titles that the fans want, and yeah, we just have to find a way to do it, and sometimes that is the way, and I think we expect the fans to be mad about it. I mean, we get it, we don't want to do that either, but it's either we release it or not, so that's...
And just to give you an example, when I was a kid, I don't know if most of you are probably half my age, but Breath of Fire 4 came out for PS1. I don't know if many of you know this, but the game had about 3 or 4 scenes that were removed. One was the Emperor got his head, spoiler, sorry. Somebody got his head chopped off. There was a couple of scenes of really light sexuality that got completely removed. And when 14-year-old Alan found out about that, I was absolutely livid. And
That's what 14-year-old Alan wanted to see.
so I actually never dreamed that I would be, lucky enough to work in the industry, and I thought that if I ever was, that I'd never do something like that. But when it comes to having those, and luckily, I think we moved a long way past that era of gaming and that era of dealing with that kind of stuff. But now that I'm actually here sitting in this position, I never thought I'd have to make a statement like this. But it really just generally comes down to because the content otherwise would not be able to be released.
That's what I figured. Thank you.
Okay, mine's, I guess, is kind of a pointed question too. Hearing about your localization process, I was wondering, I guess, what your thoughts were behind the first Danganronpa, because I played it before it was localized. What your thought process was on changing the way that the characters referred to each other, from their last names to their first names, particularly with Ishimaru, which I felt was a little, I guess, out of character for him, like, hey, call me Taka, when he's kind of the most straight-laced. I thought it was a little out of, character for him.
Okay. Well, I mean, we make... that was a little specific.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I
it's just... Sometimes we just want to be creative, and if it fits within the overall feel of the title, I think that's what it should be. Even if we have to, even if it's a drastic change, that someone may think, to us, that the outcome, if it all fit into one place, then that's all we want. We can't, for instance, I mean, for that character name, I don't know. I mean, it all just kind of ends up being like, to a certain extent, it's a place for the editors to kind of have fun with it too, and put in their creativity. And I mean, did it ruin the overall story for you? You felt like?
I guess not the overall story, but more the relationships between the characters. For example, like Naege would call Sakura Ogami-san, like Ogami, but Aoi would call her Sakura. And so you could tell that they were a lot closer to each other than, say, Naegi and Sakura were. So I felt like a lot of the character relationships were lost.
Okay.
And that, because I guess it does take a little bit of at least basic knowledge of Japanese culture to know that if you kind of know people like on the surface, like as acquaintances, which everybody thought that everybody was, I was like spoilers, but that a lot of, well, like I said, that a lot of that was lost, just the relationships between the characters and how close and how just on a, as just acquaintances that they knew each other.
Okay, well, I mean, thanks for your feedback. That's something that will, you know, I'll definitely talk about it with the team, and maybe that's something that we can pay attention to next time. I know that the editor who is working on the first one, I know that he puts a lot of thought into whatever. I mean, of course, everybody does, right? We don't want to do anything half-assed. And try to make it as familiar and natural to the Western audience, and I think that may have been his decision. And the calling name things that is a lot different in Japan and America, so that's one of the most difficult part for us too. I mean, with anime or anything, like, do we use honorifics? Do we, you know, keep the sign with Miss? But if we do Miss, then it doesn't sound like, you know, it's all those like difficult things. But definitely take your feedback, and that's something that we'll probably deliberate on and create like a guideline for us. You know, that'll like, do you want to come work with us? But thank you so much for your feedback.
Thank you. Sorry if I was like kind of a.
No, definitely. That was great.
I have a very old and beat to death question. Will Asagi ever get a game, or is the dream dead forever?
Our president's actually here right now as he comes out every year. And I always ask him that too, because I actually have Asagi.
I love Asagi.
Oh man.
Is he really?
These are my car keys. This is my Asagi keychain. So every time I get to see our president, I ask him if he's making a game, and then all he says is, "Do your job, and then have the fans email us and tell us to make an Asagi game." So that's the official answer from our president.
Every year, there's some person who's asked this question. I've been here like 3-4 years, and whenever I come to one of these panels, somebody has to ask this question. I had no honor this.
So please, if you want to see Asagi in a game, send us emails and stuff and let us know.
Or you can also go to the Disgaea 5 panel, which is tomorrow at 4 p.m.
Yeah.
And you can ask the question again.
Okay, this is kind of a long thing going, but I've noticed through the, are you guys actually in control of the Mastiff controls of La Pucelle finally, so we can get all the DLC now? If we have cameos for, you know, like Disgaea 4 and such?
Not in the plan.
Yeah, not that I know of. Sorry, I don't think any of us have access to that level of business information.
Right.
Maybe we wish we could, but yeah, I mean, it's come up before. It's just such a difficult issue.
Thanks.
Hello. How are you folks?
Good.
Okay, I have a extremely nerdy question that I am not sure any of you will be able to answer, but I run a little website called gaming.moe, please come visit, and we recently ran an article about a company you guys work with called Image Epoch, who recently filed for bankruptcy. They made such gems as Time and Eternity, so we're curious as to if you folks have any insight as to just kind of what happened with them, because I know they had an exclusive publishing deal with you guys for a while, but not everything they made got released from you.
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. Again, that steps more into a business area that I don't think any of us are too familiar with. I don't actually know what happened.
I mean, I think development industry is such a difficult place, and it takes a lot of money and resources to make a game, but the return may not, developers in the past that we've worked with that they come and go, and that's the nature of, it's a very competitive place to be in for the developers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. My question is basically, well, now that IFI is localizing the Neptunia games and other games made by Compile Hard, my first question is, how much do you miss like localizing the Neptunia series? As like you guys were the ones who localized the original PS3 games of the Neptunia series, as well as Idle PP.
Well, I actually translated Victory. So
I actually translated Neptunia 1.
yeah, so
And I watched them translate.
You weren't even
No,
born.
I was not. I wasn't there yet.
It's an interesting question. On the one hand, you know, it's kind of sad that we don't get to work on them anymore, obviously, because we really liked the games. But on the other hand, obviously, we know those people who work there very, very well, and we know that, you know, they love it just as much as we do. And so I think as, you know, someone who does care about the franchise as a franchise itself and all of their titles, I would just like to see them get worked on lovingly and then, you know, published to people so that they have a chance to continue playing. I don't know if that's a good business answer, but
And my second question is one, which I guess I wanted to ask like I believe like a few years ago, but like I think it was always like ran out of time by the time I was able to get there. But who is your goddess from the Neptunia series?
mine was not. I'm all about the Tsundere, so. Sorry for everyone over there.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any word at all about anything Soul Nomad related?
You know, that's actually funny because I was talking to the president about that again today too.
That was my first
That's actually
project.
oh wow. That's actually another one of those questions that gets asked almost every time. And it was his answer today when the question was posed to him was, so I'm not putting words in his mouth, but what he said was that he likes to try to continue to do new things. Like Disgaea for him, he's the writer of the Disgaea series too. Disgaea for him, he always finds new ways to challenge it and to make it. He likes that setting of the netherworld and such that he created so much. He says that it's very easy for him to dip back in there and create something new and pull something out. But for the other ones, he kind of likes to leave them generally as just one by ones. That said, kind of the same answer with the Asagi thing. If you really like that series, you know, keep talking to us, send us emails and stuff like that. And
Time to pelt emails at you.
Thank you.
I wanted to ask, between like all the other Disgaea games, they had a, I guess not a sequence, I forgot the word exactly, where the post game ends up being so much more longer and I guess profound than the actual story. Is that also going to be the case with like the continuing of like the Disgaea games? Because right now, like, it seems you basically use like what 4 hours or let's say generally 10 hours to beat like the whole game on like the hardest difficulty, and then you have like post game where you have like people that spend 400, 500 hours, like just grinding through the item world and getting to max level, beating all the post game bosses. Is there going to be any like any of those inclusions that like become a necessity for like the story modes, like just to at least prolong it?
I think it's a question here. You can nod to me if I'm right. The question you're asking is that are you going forward? Are we going to make more of a robust story section? Yes. Yoko, why don't you tell them about this Guy 5 story?
Size-wise, too big. It was frighteningly big. Well, this Disgaea 5, we have almost maybe twice as much text in it compared to the past titles. So, I mean, it's going to be a lot of content in that itself. I'm so sorry. I'm not really understanding your question.
Explain a little bit.
I think so. I think the reason why the story is so maybe might come off lighter during the actual, gameplay is because you have to focus on the gameplay. So the story element should probably be a little bit lighter than, this really heavy stuff that happens at the end, and it just makes it that much more rewarding for everybody to get there.
Yeah.
But during the main game, and we have to have a balance between the story and then the battle system, game system, and the character development. So in order to do that, we can't have like such a heavy duty storyline during gameplay.
I get you. Thank you very much.
I think the last person back there will be the last person for questions. But even the white shirt, you're good.
Is it okay if I add something? So the Sky 5, like Yoko said, is like twice as long as the longest Sky that we worked on. So I believe that it was either Disgaea 2 or Disgaea 4 that was the longest so far, which was around 20 hours for the main storyline.
Main stories usually are about 30-ish.
30-ish? Okay.
Yeah.
But I think Disgaea 5 is supposed to be around 45 hours for the main storyline. Yeah.
Oh no.
I have a better question this time. I have a better question. I'm trying to figure out how to phrase this exactly and if I'm allowed to, but have you ever considered or looked at more visual novels or like specifically otome games?
I was all set to be like, yes, and then after you said that, Otome.
Well, visual novels.
No, I don't mean that like as a genre is negative. It's just, as you know, visual novels themselves are kind of, I guess you could say, a tough sell. It's not really a genre that ever really took off over here. And then within that broader spectrum of visual novels, you have otome games that are super like with a niche within a niche. For us, it's like a niche within a niche within a niche. We have seen a lot of, thanks to all of you, seen a lot of success with things like Danganronpa. We know other companies that are close to us have seen a lot of success with other visual novel titles. So I think it's something that, going forward, we're looking at more carefully in terms of something that's viable to bring out.
Okay, because I was looking online and they said, well, why don't they ask NIS? Why don't they ask them? And so I was like, well, I might as well ask. So, thank you. Thank you.
If Yoko assigns me to one, I'll do it.
Dudes. Well, I'd like to thank the company for the Sky series. Awesome. Though sadly, admit I have yet to beat the Sky 2 on for PSP. Still working away to D2, so that's gonna be a while. So there's two questions. One, who thought of the idea of making the printings explode every time you threw them? And two, which Disgaea character is your favorite, each one of you? Like mine's Lahava.
The printing thing, do you have any insight as to
Why does it explode? You know? Well, who came up with it? Nikawa.
Yeah, it was the president.
She has been the writer.
Come to the panel tomorrow and ask that.
Yeah.
And then favorite characters from the series. Asagi fan. So. She's super cute.
Gordon?
Yeah.
Love him. He's so awesome. And yeah, doing the voices, like the recording for him and just writing his dialogue is the most amazing time ever.
My favorite character is a new one from Disgaea 5, Zoroken, because when we were doing the script for him, I voiced his lines. Not in the game, but just when we were talking to each other in the room, I did the voice.
Localization process, the editors go through and edits the script. We put together the voice script, and then we have this thing called script party, where all of us sit down together and we assign a character to each other, and we read it out loud so that we know those dialogues are written naturally when spoken. And so that's what he's talking about. When we were doing this, he was assigned the character, and he had a good time.
I think that about, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I think that about wraps things up. Thank you guys so much for coming. Thank you for supporting us. We're nothing without you. We would like to do one more little thing. I think Tiffany would like to explain it to you. So you probably noticed the...
You're trying to steal it already, huh?
We'd like to give this away, and Tiffany will explain how you can get it.
we have this Fuka hat, which we will be giving away to the first person who will stand up. Sit back down, sit back down. Who is first to stand up and be able to list all 6 main characters, all the 6 main overlords of Disgaea 5.
Killian, Serafina, Lucilia, Red Mac, is Tristo, and Zerokin.